Hello, go back to another breaking news update. My name is Jimmy Boyd, and you were watching Boyd News. I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm back with some more updates coming out from the Middle East, and we're going to talk more about Israel's strike on Iran. I've got more information on some of the facilities that were attacked inside of Iran when Israel carried out their retaliatory strike just a few days ago. And we're also going to discuss the fact that Iran looks like they're going to respond to this attack, as we have this huge report coming out today that says they will use all available tools to respond. So that's some huge news. We weren't really hearing that much over the weekend as to whether Iran was going to respond to Israel's attack on their country, but it looks like they're most likely going to, probably very soon. So we'll be discussing that as well today. And then I also have some reports that just earlier today, Israel was launching airstrikes in the city of Tyre, which is a coastal city in southwestern Lebanon, leveling several buildings right on the coastline, very close to the ocean. Okay, so that makes sense why we heard just about a week or so ago that Israel was calling on all Lebanese civilians to stay away from the coastline, all the way from the southwestern portion of their country, very close to the Israeli border, all the way up to the city of Sidon. I'll show you guys that on a map here in just a little bit. And it looks like we finally started seeing some airstrikes right on the coastline, and that explains why they told their citizens, or the citizens of Lebanon, to stay away from these areas. So we'll be talking about that as well today. So I want to jump right into the news. I've got several things I need to show you today. So let's hop on over here to mainstream news just for a moment. We have this report here. It says from Reuters, Iran says it will use all available tools to respond to Israel's attack. Okay, this just coming out today, October 28th, 2024. And it says right here, Tehran will use all available tools to respond to Israel's weekend attack on military targets in Iran. Iranian Foreign Minister spokesperson Ismail Baghai, I think it's Baghai, said on Monday, Iran previously played down Israel's air attack on Saturday, saying it caused only limited damage, while U.S. President Joe Biden called for a halt to escalation that raised fears of an all-out conflagration in the Middle East. Okay, so this is what we were originally hearing over the weekend, was Iran was definitely playing things down big time. They were saying that there was no attacks really inside of Iran. Everything was very limited. But then all of a sudden, now we're seeing a change of hearts here, and Iran is saying they want to strike back, that they're forced into a position to respond. So that makes me think that things were much more significant in terms of this attack than what was previously being told. And I'm sure the Iranians were probably trying to withhold a lot of information coming out of their country. Many citizens, I believe, were even being told not to photograph anything or film anything. But we did see some video footage, and I'm going to show you guys some satellite imagery today that definitely shows there was some significant attacks inside of Iran. So I'll be showing you more of that evidence today. It says here, speaking at a weekly televised news conference, Baghai said Iran will use all available tools to deliver a definitive and effective response to the Zionist regime Israel. Okay, so what's that going to be? Whenever they say all available tools, I mean, that could mean a lot of different things, but to be honest, what I think of first is proxy groups. I wouldn't be surprised if we see Hezbollah, Hamas, whatever's left of Hamas down in the Gaza Strip, probably even the Yemen Houthis, who knows, maybe the Islamic resistance in Iraq, or maybe they start teaming up and start going after Israel more heavily. I'm thinking that would most likely be the case, but then again, Hezbollah has been pretty degraded, Hamas as well. The Yemen Houthis are very far away. They only have limited capabilities, but we've been hearing that they were willing to deploy upwards of 400,000 troops over to, I think it was Iraq or Syria, to fight against the Israelis. So we'll see what's going to happen here. It says the nature of Iran's response depends on the nature of the Israeli attack, Baghai added without elaborating. Iran Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei said on Sunday that Iranian officials should determine how best to demonstrate Iran's power to Israel, adding that the Israeli attack should neither be downplayed nor exaggerated. So it makes me think definitely that this attack was much more significant than what we were being told. I originally thought, based on the information that was coming out in the first 24 hours after this attack, it seemed like the attack was not as significant as it was supposedly supposed to be. But as more information is continuing to come out, and I'm going to show you some of that here today, it definitely looks like it was a pretty massive attack onto Iran, okay? So we'll hop on over here to X now, and I've got several things I want to share with you here. Vicegrad24 reports breaking. CNN reports that Israel's intelligence agencies have information, saying that the Islamic regime in Iran will retaliate for Israel's airstrike against military targets in Iran. Okay, so even CNN reporting this as well, that they are going to retaliate in some sort of way. Now, we don't know exactly what the retaliation is going to be. We've heard in the past that they said they would fire upward of 1,000, maybe 2,000 or more ballistic missiles onto Israel, which would definitely be one of the largest attacks to date, if not the largest. And then they've also come out and said they wouldn't respond at all. So the fact that they're responding makes me think that this attack definitely was very significant, because they did come out stating that they may not respond at all if this attack was very limited, but it looks to me like it definitely was not a limited attack, okay? So from Max24, Israel left us no choice and is forcing us to respond fully to the recent attacks, says the president of Iran. Western publications previously wrote that the United States warned Israel that a new strike from Iran will be stronger than the previous one. Okay, so if it's going to be stronger than the previous attack, what we saw back on October 1st was around 200 ballistic missiles. So I would think they're going to use ballistic missiles most likely, but I would think at the same time they may be more conservative with using these, as we heard some recent information coming out over the weekend as well that I will show you, that several of their mixer plants that produce solid fuel for their ballistic missiles have been destroyed. Okay, so they can't obviously produce mass amounts of ballistic missiles anymore if many of these have been destroyed, maybe majority of them. So we'll be discussing that some more as we move on, okay? So now I want to talk a little bit about the city of Tyre coming under attack today in southern Lebanon. Formosan Defender, massive Israeli strikes this morning on the city of Tyre in southern Lebanon after several neighborhoods in the city were ordered to evacuate by the Israel Defense Force. So here's some video footage coming out from the city of Tyre. Somebody was able to capture major airstrikes here right on the coastline. There was several high-rise buildings here that were struck, many of them even destroyed and collapsing, and who knows what they were targeting, most likely Hezbollah positions, but we definitely have seen many buildings and infrastructure inside the city of Tyre being targeted. I've shown you guys video footage before of heavy attacks in the city of Tyre, so most likely that's what Israel was attacking in this area. So now I want to show you where Tyre is at, and then I also want to talk a little bit about this area that was evacuated or ordered to evacuate by Israel. So down here, here's Israel right here. Then we'll go to the southwestern portion of Lebanon. So down here, here's the city of Tyre right here. Okay, so this is the city that came under attack. Somewhere on the coastal areas here is where they targeted in these videos that we're going to show you. But from the southwestern portion over here, the most southwestern point of Lebanon, okay, from here on the border of Israel, all the way up over here to Sidon, okay? So from Sidon to the border down here is where the Israelis ordered evacuations all along the coastline right here, okay? And this was probably about a week, maybe 2 weeks ago, I want to say. And looks like we finally started to see some military action here, first time here in Tyre in this city, okay? So all the way up to Sidon, I think, is where they were evacuating from right here, actually. And it was there was a river over here, I forget the name of it, Awali River, that's what it's called. So the Awali River from here all the way down, okay? So a little bit past Sidon to the southwestern portion of Lebanon is what was ordered to be evacuated. Now we started to see strikes inside of Lebanon just today on the coastline. So who knows what they're planning to do here, but we can see also from Formosan Defender, several high-rise buildings along the seafront in Tyre suffered significant damage following Israeli strikes earlier against the city. So here's a picture of some of the damage of some of these buildings. You can see here's the ocean right here. So right on the ocean here, the waterfront homes right in the front here were struck by multiple bombs and most likely targeting Hezbollah positions here. Maybe Hezbollah militants are hiding inside these homes, and that's probably why they ordered to evacuate these areas so they could strike them and destroy them. We've definitely been seeing Israel doing a lot of this lately. Okay, and also we've got another video here from Formosan Defender. Destruction seen all along the waterfront within the city of Tyre in southern Lebanon after Israeli strikes this morning targeted several high-rise residential buildings after they were ordered to evacuate. So we've got a 46-second clip here that shows up-close footage of some of the damage here on these waterfront properties. So take a look at this. right, we'll go ahead and stop it right there. So we could definitely see the coastal city of Tyre coming under heavy Israeli airstrikes just today. Massive damage to a lot of these residential buildings here. We can see some cars here that are on fire, been destroyed as well. So definitely heavy airstrikes being carried out by the Israeli Air Force. So moving on, we're going to talk about some of these airstrikes also inside of Iran now and how significant they were. So I've got some details to share with you here. This is from Times of Israel Alerts, live update. Gallant Iran strikes were most significant Air Force operation since the Six-Day War, which changed the balance of power. Okay, so they're saying this was a heavy airstrike onto Iran, and they're saying it was the most significant Air Force operation since the Six-Day War. And if you're not aware of that, I pulled this up for you on Wikipedia. The Six-Day War was also known as the June War of 1967. Arab-Israeli War, or Third Arab-Israeli War, was fought between Israel and a coalition of Arab states, primarily Egypt, Syria, and Jordan, and lasted from June 5th to the 10th in 1967. Okay, so this is what the Six-Day War is about. I will cite this down below, this link, if you guys want to read more about the Six-Day War. We're not going to go over all of this. Just wanted to share that with you in case you weren't aware of this that happened back in 1967. So now moving on to Clash Report, Israel's main target in its attack on Iran. Several buildings at the Parachin and Kojur, I think it's Kojur, sorry if I'm saying that wrong, complexes near Tehran involved in solid fuel rocket engine production were hit, specifically aiming at 12 industrial mixers for solid fuel. Note that Iran had ample time to relocate critical equipment to its extensive underground facilities. Now, what's interesting about this is, why did Iran not relocate their equipment? Why did they decide to leave it in these facilities so where it could be targeted by Israel? Were they thinking that maybe Israel would not carry out this attack and that's why they weren't moving them, or what happened here? But we have a few satellite images to show you. This information actually originally broke on Saturday, and I was not here Sunday to share this with you guys. So if you weren't aware of this, I just wanted to show you this. Some of you might know about this information already. As you can see, this was originally shared on October 26, 2024, which I believe should have been Saturday. So Israeli airstrike damage to Parachin rocket motor casting facility. Okay, and it says destroyed mixing building. We can see, or mixing buildings, multiple buildings, 1, 2, 3 right here that have been destroyed. Looks like there may be some damage to these other ones here. It's kind of hard to tell. And then also a warehouse that was destroyed. Okay, so these mixing buildings is these industrial mixers that are used to produce solid fuel for Iran's ballistic missiles. This allows them to mass produce ballistic missiles and store them away, and this solid fuel can stay inside of these missiles for a very long time. They don't have to fuel them with liquid fuel. They're solid, and they'll stay ready to go for years at a time. And then whenever they want to launch them, they could just launch them. They don't have to fill them up with fuel prior to being launched. So this means that Iran is definitely it's going to inhibit their ability to produce more ballistic missiles moving forward. Apparently, a lot of these were destroyed in this attack just the other day. Also, here's another one. It says Israeli airstrike damage to Kojur rocket motor casting facility. And it says destroyed mixing buildings. So even more were destroyed right here. Here's 2 more that were hit. Looks like this one could have been hit as well. But definitely we can see from this picture, 2 of them were pretty damaged. Okay, so it looks to me like this definitely was a very significant attack. Now, it may not be like a heavy strike destroying lots of their Air Force, or, we did hear that their headquarters for the RGC was hit, I think, at a barracks is what was being reported. But for the most part, many of these strikes are going to inhibit their ability to produce ballistic missiles, and that's obviously what was used to target Israel back on October 1st. So it totally makes sense why they targeted these facilities, okay? And then also for Mosin Defender, Israeli Chief of General Staff Lieutenant General Herzi Halevi stated during a situational assessment yesterday at the military headquarters located at the Kiryat in Tel Aviv, "We have used only a fraction of our capabilities. We can do much more. We struck strategic systems in Iran which carry great importance, and we will now see how things develop." Okay, so even again, coming out from Herzi Halevi, the chief of Israel's military, coming out and saying that they struck strategic systems in Iran and apparently was a very significant strike. Okay, so let's see what happens here. But the fact that Iran is supposed to be retaliating from this attack makes me think that they did more damage than what is initially being told. Okay, So moving on now, we have another report from Ozen Defender. It appears that if the oil refinery was struck by Israel, only 3 oil tanks were targeted, possibly by accident or possibly as a warning to Iran that more damage could have been done. Okay, so what was being reported here is looks like an oil storage tank may have been targeted as well. And if we look closely, some of these oil storage tanks, like this is the one right here we're looking at down in this photo, they look like they're open on the top. So I don't think they're being filled, or I don't know what's going on here. You can see these have white tops and these kind of look brown. So I don't think they had tops or, like a roof on the top of them. And Israel apparently struck one of these only and destroyed it. We can see right here. And this supposedly was potentially a message to Iran to let them know they can definitely target their oil industry if they really wanted to and destroy their oil fields. That's most likely what the message was being sent to Iran. And if not, who knows? Maybe this was an accident and this got attacked when it wasn't supposed to. So moving on to another update. Ozen Defender, as satellite images and details slowly begin to emerge, it appears that Friday night's Israeli strike mission against Iran was much more significant than initially believed. Okay, so see again, the first 24 hours, there really was not a whole lot of information coming out. But now that a few days have been going by, looks like some information is starting to be leaked. Lots of satellite imagery is starting to come out now as well, and we're able to see some very significant strikes inside of Iran. Okay, so it looks like a completely different story than what we were hearing just a few days ago. Also from Nexta, Israeli army says that it has destroyed all of Iran's strategic defense capabilities. The attack destroyed all of Iran's strategic defense capabilities. That is, all long-range anti-aircraft missile batteries, the Israeli army radio reported. According to the radio station, Tehran is left with only short-range systems of its own manufacture. Israeli army radio claims that as a result of the October 26th attack, Iran also lost its strategic surface-to-air missile capabilities for the next 2 to 3 years, as it is problematic to procure new systems and takes a long time to produce. So, I mean, just look at that alone right there, knocking out their air defenses. If Iran doesn't have any air defenses, what if the U.S. decides to go with their B-2 bombers and head on over to Iran and start striking their underground nuclear facilities and denuclearize them? This could definitely be what Israel was preparing the U.S. to do, and we know the U.S. has lots of military assets over in the Middle East right now. And what did we just see roughly about 2 weeks ago was the U.S. down in Yemen bombing underground facilities using B-2 Spirit bombers and using bunker-busting bombs to destroy some of these underground facilities that were housing ballistic missiles used by the Houthis. And that was obviously a message being sent to Iran. So if we kind of look at what's happening here, it looks like Iran's their ability to produce more missiles is being destroyed, and then at the same time, their air defenses have been wiped out. So they are initially unable to strike back or continue to strike back for a very long time. So it's going to limit their use of their ballistic missiles, and then at the same time, their air defenses are knocked out, so they don't have a lot of air defense capability. So we can kind of see what Israel is preparing here, and we've been talking a lot about whether the U.S. and maybe Israel will strike their nuclear facilities and destroy them, as Israel, even the U.S. coming out recently and many times in the past stating that they will not allow Iran to obtain a nuclear bomb. Okay, so moving on to Dr. Eli David. Breaking, The Independent reports that at least 26 Iranian military and IRGC personnel were killed during Israel's attack. It also reports that all anti-aircraft radar screens in Iran were hacked and frozen 5 minutes before Israel's attack. Okay, so this is huge if this is true. 26 Iranian military and IRGC personnel killed in the attack on Friday when Israel carried out their retaliatory strike onto Iran. Now, what was initially being reported was there was about 2 to 4 air defense teams or air defense operators that were killed in some of these strikes, as a lot of their air defense sites were targeted. And now looks like, according to The Independent, potentially upwards of 26 members of their military and the IRGC were potentially killed as well. And then also, if you notice here, it talks about how their anti-aircraft radar screens were hacked as well prior to the attack. So maybe this is why we didn't really see a whole lot of air defense activity aside from anti-air guns that were used by the Iranians. I showed you guys video footage of that. I think it was on Saturday. So maybe that's why they weren't able to use their air defenses, because they were either frozen prior to the attack or knocked out very quickly. And that probably is also why Israel was able to destroy them. So we could definitely even see with more information here what Israel was preparing to do when they carried out their strikes. Also from Mossad Defender, the deputy commanding officer of the Iranian Army's Southwestern Command, Mohammed Mokhtari Far, claimed on Monday that over 600 missiles were launched by Israeli aircraft against sites in Iran during Friday night's attack. Look at that, guys. 600 missiles being fired. We know that over 100 Israeli warplanes were used to carry out this strike mission onto Iran. So that's pretty crazy, guys. 600 missiles apparently being used. Okay, a few more things to show you here before we get you out of here from Global News. Breaking: Iran bans Motorola phones following pager explosions in Lebanon. Okay, so looks like Iran has been banning these Motorola phones now in their country and not allowing anybody to use these, as maybe they fear that these things could be exploding inside their country. We heard just weeks back, close to a month now, I want to say, maybe longer, that there was pagers exploding, radios, all kinds of electronic equipment that was tampered with by the Israelis inside of Lebanon that started exploding all over the place, I think even in Syria. And these were tampered with high explosive powder inside of them that were detonated eventually at some point. Many of these pagers were on the hips of Hezbollah fighters. Some of them were even holding onto them in their hands and responding with these pagers prior to the attack. So lots of the Hezbollah members either lost their hands or their eyesight. It was definitely a very heavy attack, and it looks like Iran is afraid it could happen in their country as well. Okay, so two more things here from Sprinter Family. Former CIA agent reveals limitations of THAAD system. Philip Giraldi, a former CIA officer, wrote on the X network about the shortcomings of the THAAD system. The U.S. has only 9 THAAD systems, and each launch complex of this system can hold only 8 missiles. If Iran launches 100 missiles at Israel, then even if the 2 complexes sent by the U.S. to Israel work perfectly, 84 Iranian missiles will pass through the system. Lockheed Martin produced only 1,000 missiles for the system, and each one cost $12.5 million. Okay, so definitely a weak spot for Israel is going to be air defense as well if they come under attack. Here's a picture of one of these THAAD systems right here. That's insane. I didn't know that each missile cost $12 million, $12.5 million. That's a very expensive missile for this system here, okay? And it's supposed to be very similar to a Patriot missile system, but even better, supposedly. I think these can take out ballistic missiles up in the atmosphere over Israel if they come under attack. So we know that Israel only has like 2 of these. I've seen video footage where we saw 3 of these THAAD systems rolling on some of the roads over there, so I can't confirm that completely. But Israel could have several of these right now, and even if they have, multiples of these, it may not be enough to protect them if they come under attack, especially by, let's say, 1,000, 2,000, or more ballistic missiles is what is being reported from Iran to fire onto Israel at some point. So it's definitely going to get crazy over here, and it's going to get very interesting to see what happens as time moves forward. We'll see what Iran chooses to do. Okay, one last thing I want to show you guys from Dr. Eli David again. If Biden and Kamala had smart advisors, they would recommend launching a single strike, taking out Iran's 2 uranium enrichment facilities. Biden would be remembered as the president who removed the greatest threat to the world, and Kamala would win the presidency. So the reason why I want to show you this is because obviously we're right around the corner from the presidential elections on November 5th in the United States, and it's either going to be Donald Trump, and it's going to be Kamala Harris, right? Now, if the Biden administration were to go ahead and target the nuclear facilities in Iran right now, if their air defenses are for the most part knocked out, this would be the time to use these B-2 Spirit bombers and go over here and start striking these nuclear facilities, okay? Obviously it makes sense what Dr. Eli David is saying here. If they were to do this, Biden would be held as a major president who knocked out Iran, one of the supposedly the greatest threats, according to the U.S., to the world. And if they were to take out these nuclear facilities, it's something that the U.S. has said many times. They would not allow Iran to obtain a nuclear bomb. We've already heard multiple times and many times in the past in history as well that Iran was very close to obtaining nuclear weapons, could have them already. So I don't know what's going to happen, but it wouldn't surprise me if we were to see something like this happen. That maybe this is what Israel's strike on Iran was supposed to be would be to degrade their ability to defend themselves. And maybe the U.S. is going to come in here and mop things up. And who knows if that's going to happen? I'm not saying that it is, but I definitely think it could be a possibility. And when it comes to presidency, this definitely could aid Kamala Harris to become president if Joe Biden were to give the order to go ahead and do this. And there's still a few more days left. We'll see what happens over here, but I still think something significant and very interesting is going to come out of the Middle East, possibly prior to the U.S. elections in the United States. So let's see what happens over here. Just wanted to give you some of the latest details coming out from the Middle East today. But I want to thank you so much for tuning in today. If you got something out of this, please smash that like button. Also, if you enjoy my content, please consider subscribing down below. Hit the notification bell. That way YouTube can notify you. And with that, hope you all have a great day. Everybody take care and God bless. And we'll see you in the next one.